What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to build your meal plan and structure your nutrition to promote muscle growth while also stimulating fat loss, because so many of you guys say you want to lose weight, but if you want to lose weight, just go eat less and you'll end up looking like a skinny fat version of what you already are right now. Usually you guys mean you want to build your dream physique, which is lean and toned, so that means building muscle and losing fat. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly how to do that with nutrition in this video today. I'm going to transfer you guys over to my computer, but before we do that, I want to remind you guys to do hard shit, don't care what people think about you, and have the courage to be uncomfortable, because I promise you the life you want is in the shit you avoid every single day. So without further ado, I'm going to send you all over to my computer now, and I will see you guys over there. On my computer now, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the different things I look at when I'm structuring my nutrition, my client's nutrition, all respective to whatever our goals are at the time. Before we get into that, I kind of want to lay the groundwork a little bit before I do a deep dive into, all the different factors I'm looking at. Let's talk about some things I want you to understand before you just try to implement this, or you just try to implement a meal plan in your fitness journey or whatever. I want you to shift your mindset from looking at food and then kind of associating that with restriction and needing to eat less and less and less because you're so frustrated with the way that you look, or all the extra body fat that you may carry, or if you're unhappy with the amount of muscle mass you have. Instead of having a negative relationship with food because you have a negative relationship with yourself or maybe your body image, I want you to see food as almost a tool to get you the dream physique that you need. Not you need, but that you want. Shift in mindset alone will help you better utilize your meal plan and nutrition to get you where you want to be, instead of having this almost internal battle of wanting to be smaller and smaller and smaller because you want to lose weight so bad. Because in reality, even if you are carrying excess body fat, nutrition is still something that you should optimize, because you want to make sure that you're prioritizing building muscle while you're losing the body fat so that you can be as efficient as possible. Therefore, you'll make quicker results or gains faster, and you'll be less frustrated and you won't give up, because frustration paired with a lack of knowledge is almost 99% of the time the reason why I've seen so many people give up or quit on their fitness journey or on themselves or whatever, because they get so frustrated and they don't know what to do, so they're just like, fuck it. You this before we get into the video, because I've been there. I've had that negative relationship. I've had so much restriction with food because I just wanted to lose weight and be smaller and have this dream physique, and then I just realized that that is not the way to achieve it, and I let the frustration get in my head and get to me and make decisions that weren't necessarily the best for my goals or weren't going to get me that dream physique I was looking for, but they made me feel good in a sense because I was aggressively losing weight, but I ended up just losing muscle mass as well and then just looking small. So when I started shifting my mindset to make myself view food as a tool to get me where I want to be and to help me build the physique that I want, instead of being super restrictive and just being very negative, when I in the whole grand scheme of the journey at the time, I was able to see the results that I wanted and also have a positive relationship with myself, with food, and not suffer as much mentally, as well as be able to keep that physique, right? Because essentially when I had that mindset of restriction, I was just driving myself into the ground. Talk to a lot of clients about this as well. Speak to a lot of people on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff in my DMs, discussing the same emotional feelings that I was having back in the day. So it's something that I know a lot of people experience, and I even coach people who go through this as well. So if you're having a very negative mindset simply because you're frustrated or unhappy with what you're seeing in the mirror or just what you're currently looking like, just know that food is not the enemy and you shouldn't view it that way. One more thing, I think it's important to remember that in your fitness journey, you're not going to feel like it's working until you're actually there, until you've seen the results, and you will be the biggest obstacle that is slowing you down, because you'll get in your head and you'll make decisions based on your current feelings of frustration rather than following the actual plan and being patient. So I think it's important to have a coach, a friend, or even just someone who's going to help you kind of not have that skewed view that you have. So someone who can, even a gym partner, someone who can be kind of outside and be okay, trust the process, trust the plan, because they're not experiencing the frustration and maybe the body dysmorphia or whatever that you're experiencing. So it's kind of good to have someone around to just remind you that it's okay to feel the things that you're feeling, but to remain on plan and don't make decisions out of frustration or because you're lacking patience. Basically, when you're feeling those negative emotions, you do truly have a skewed view of reality. So you may think that you look a certain way when you really don't, or you look worse than you do. So it is very important to have kind of an outside perspective, or someone to kind of remind you that, it's normal to feel this way and that you just got to keep going. So that is pretty much the groundwork that I've laid out. Without further ado, we're going to get into the beautiful little chart that I have made here. So let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to handle nutrition, or how I handle it for my clients and stuff. The first thing that we do, and for me as well, the first thing that we do is determine the goal. So obviously the goal is going to be somewhere along the lines of losing fat and building muscle. That will look different for everyone, but I kind of try to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what their emotional drivers are. So I'll ask them things like, okay, what does achieving this mean to you? What is this for you? Because obviously, if it's just, oh, I want to look good, when things get hard, you're going to be fuck this shit. You're not going to care. And usually, of course, people that will hop on a call with me and take the time to talk to me and tell me what they're really struggling with, generally it has a much deeper meaning, because they're already going out of their way to have this discussion with me on the phone, which means that they must want it, but badly enough, I guess, because they're, taking time out of their day to have this discussion. So usually I'll ask them what their why is, because I want to have that identified and I'll note it down, and I want to be able to remind them of that, or even have them keep it in the back of their mind for when things get really tough. So, for example, the why for me is competing, or even just going to the gym or whatever, my weight loss journey, and just building my dream physique is just showing myself that I can do it, of course. And, knowing that I want to be able to have a healthy, long life, not only for me, but for the people that love me and my future family, all that stuff. So when I'm thinking about, let's say, getting from point A to point B, it's really, really important to me and meaningful to me that from point A to point B, I know that I'm going to have to conquer everything that I'm struggling to face to get to where I want to be. So ultimately, that's what it would mean to me. To everyone else or clients that I talk to, it can be like a bunch of different reasons. It can be as simple or as complex as you'd like it to be, so long as it's fulfilling and meaningful to you. Because when things get hard and you're struggling, or you're just not having the most motivation or discipline, or you're just feeling really down, it's going to be important to remember that why behind the whole reason that you're doing this. And if it was easy, like, you wouldn't be watching this video, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But again, you should have structure to your life, to your nutrition, to everything. And I know that sometimes it can be tedious, it can be hard, and you just want things to be easy, but an easy life never fulfilled anyone. So guys, I had to flip my hat around because sometimes when I wear it for too long, it annoys me being my peripherals. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the different factors I look at when meal planning for my clients and for myself. For one, the first thing that I ask them is, what do they do for work? So of course, if you have a job where you're going to be sitting at a desk, obviously you're not going to be burning as many calories. Your total daily energy expenditure is going to be a bit lower than, not even a bit lower, a lot lower than someone who's working 12 hours as a server, and they're carrying trays and they're getting a lot of steps in and they're constantly busy and moving around or something like that. So I'm always like, what do you guys do for work? How often are you sitting at a desk? Are you more sedentary? Are you more active? Good insight into where they kind of fall in the range of their total daily energy expenditure or their maintenance. I want to remind you guys that when you are using that calculator online to kind of figure out what your maintenance calories are, please remember that that is a very broad and general range. It is not your exact caloric maintenance, right? So there can be two people that have the same body weight and the same height and age, but one works a desk job and one works a job where they're getting like 20,000 steps, and they also have two totally different body compositions. But if you answer the general questions online, and I know it gives you an option for body fat, but let's say you don't know that, and you just answer the general questions, it's going to give you it's going to give those two people the same number. So just remember that it's a range, and that's like, you're going to have to play around with it, have some trial and error, and take some time to figure out what actually works. And again, when you start your fitness journey, you're extremely impatient because you lack knowledge. So you're like unsure if it's working. So you like have this idea or mindset that you're like wasting your time, but in reality, like, you're either going to stay stuck here or you're going to try things until you're not. But I don't know, people think that way. I've noticed that when I talk to them. So you're going to think it's not working, but just know that like, you're going to have to play around with things and figure out what works for you, because it's a very broad range. That is why I post a lot on TikTok, Instagram, every social media platform that I'm on to implement structure. Because when you have structure, you kind of have like your finger on the pulse a little bit, so you can see where you're bleeding out from, right? You can figure out how effective and efficient your plan actually is when you track as much as you can, so you can see like where the issue is coming from. I really hope I articulated that correctly, but if you're more sedentary with work and you're sitting at a desk, like I'm sitting at a desk right now in the gym recording this video, you're probably going to be having a different nutrition plan or meal plan, and most likely a lower caloric intake than somebody who's getting 20,000 steps a day, carrying trays, lifting like heavy dish racks and stuff like that. Let me be the one to remind you that a lot of this comes with trial and error, because this isn't cookie cutter. It can't be cookie cutter. Every person is literally different. Like, there is not a single person that is similar to another, unless you guys are identical twins. But you guys are all different. So again, something that works for someone else may not work for you. And there is going to be a period of trial and error where you're trying to figure out how to make this work. And especially at the beginning of your fitness journey, you will convince yourself, oh, it just doesn't work. Like, I tried a calorie deficit, I didn't lose weight. Calorie deficits are the only way to lose weight. So clearly there was an issue. Look at what you do for work. We go into food and diet preferences. Now, I've noticed with a lot of people, they seem to think that because they are taking it serious or on a diet or whatever, that needs to be shit that they fucking hate, or it needs to be like veggies and chicken or some shit. Program the foods that you like so that you can do this for your entire life. Do not make this something that it doesn't need to be. Do not make it unnecessarily difficult because you think that's going to correlate to better results. Just because you're working hard doesn't necessarily mean you're working efficiently, and also does not necessarily mean you're going to get the results that you're looking for faster or even at all. You shouldn't be intentionally making things difficult, because I know that that's a common thing to do in your fitness journey, especially at the beginning, because you don't know what you're doing. So in order to kind of make up for that, you try to do way too much and eat very little, because you want to make sure that you're going to get the results. Quickest way to go absolutely nowhere and drive yourself into the ground and be exhausted. So that it is that you like, program that into your nutrition, into your meal plan. Don't just force yourself to eat chicken and veggies because that's what you heard someone say that you should eat. The clients, I literally ask them what their favorite foods are, do my best to adhere to that when I'm writing their nutrition plan. And I also ask them what their favorite cheat meals are, so I can try my best to recreate that. So let's say their favorite cheat meal is a burger and fries. Okay, that's very easy to recreate. You can literally do buns, cheese, mixed veggies, whatever, and then potatoes. And they can literally make that at home, and it feels like they're not on a diet. From food preference, we also have to look at people's lifestyles and just how they operate in terms of what's going to keep them on track or on plan. So let's say this is a very, very busy person. Normally for them, I would program them a lot of similar foods, because they can batch prep that, and it can be something that they don't have to think about. Like, they're not like, oh, how am I going to hit my protein goal today? You have no questions asked at all, because I literally program it for you, and you know what to eat, when to eat it, and it's very consistent, so you don't have to waste your energy thinking about that. Or if this is someone who's maybe less busy or just wants more variety, we'll write up different meal plans or have plenty of substitutions on deck, or they'll text me and be like, oh, I want to have this today. So we'll make that switch, right? So if you're someone who wants variety, you can definitely write up a couple different meal plans, and you can wake up and choose which one you want to have. Or if you're someone who's very busy and you don't want to have that extra thought of how am I going to hit my carb intake? What am I going to eat for lunch, breakfast, all that stuff? If you don't want to have that, you can literally like have the same meal plan every single day, or even still have a couple of those to save yourself time and then just take them on the go and keep them on your fridge, in your fridge. I've talked to a lot of people that are like scared of meal planning or even scared of getting their nutrition in check because they don't want to put themselves in a box. And I'm here to tell you right now, it doesn't need to be restrictive. You can even track your macros daily. The only issue with tracking macros when you're a beginner is you just don't have a very good knowledge of nutrition. So oftentimes we only focus on sometimes just the calories. And if you're lucky, you'll focus on the calories and the protein, but you don't necessarily get all the micronutrients that you could be had you been paying more attention or just had a better knowledge of nutrition. So I don't recommend tracking macros until you have a better concept of nutrition, because then we just get caught up in a caloric number, but really don't understand what are these nutrients doing for me and how are they better fueling my performance. So usually I'd recommend having a meal plan or something with whole foods first, majority of the time, still programming your favorite things, just so you can kind of understand like meal timing and the reason that all of these things are implemented. A bunch of different ways that you can go about it. So whether it be tracking macros or having like 3 to 5 different kinds of meal plans. So when you wake up, if you want variety, you can have that. Or if you're someone who just needs structure and doesn't want to think about how the hell am I going to hit my protein goal, you can have the same meal plan every single day and just make a variation based on training and rest days or whatever, and just adjust the different kinds of foods that you're having. But relatively, it would all be the same so that you can batch prep it and not just have to waste any extra time thinking about it, especially if you work a lot or you just have a very busy life. So after that, I will get into their current body composition. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with, or this part of nutrition will go hand in hand with your cardio. So if you have a lot more body fat than, let's say, someone who's carrying more muscle mass, but they just have a layer or so of body fat that they're trying to shed to appear leaner, you guys are going to have different nutrition makeup as far as ratios of carbs, fats, proteins, all that stuff, as well as probably different cardio levels simply because one is carrying excess body fat. So you're going to have to work pretty hard to get that off. But when you are using that calculator online, I want to remind you, if you don't have your body fat percentage to put in and you just put in the same metrics as person A and person B, and you guys have 2 totally different ratios as far as body fat to fat mass, body mass, muscle mass to fat mass. I'm so sorry, guys. It's I'm tired today. But you'll get the same number. So I just want to remind you guys that that is a very general range. So take that with a grain of salt and remember that you might have to play around with things and experience a little bit of trial and error. So before you tell yourself it isn't working, just take the time to kind of figure out what does work, because I promise it will. Just it's a range. Okay. Some of you guys take it like it's like the freaking law, but it's not. So yeah, you look at your current body composition, the more fat mass that you have to lose, the more work that you're gonna have to do, and the larger deficit that you're going to have to be in. And generally the more cardio or steps or just activity you're going to have to get in the day. Remind you guys of this because I know that some people will like see videos or whatever, and the person in the video will be like, oh, I weigh this and I do this and I do this, and you think that because you guys weigh the same that you guys are the same, and you're not. I just said no one is the same, so these things can't just be cookie cutter for anyone. After that, we will look at the timeline. Now, the best timeline is a lifestyle change. I tell that to everyone, but again, I do work with clients who do have like a specific timeline of, let's say, it can be anywhere from like 12 weeks, 6 weeks to all the way up to 6 months to a year, just depending on what their goals are. I will say the longer that you take to build this physique or to work towards this goal, the better you will look and the easier it will be. Depending on what the timeline is, that'll basically dictate how aggressive the deficit's going to be, especially if it's a fat loss phase or body recomp phase. If it's a muscle building phase and you have relatively like not a lot of body fat, then that would be different. But usually if it's a fat loss phase or some sort of fat loss, the timeline is going to dictate how aggressive cardio and nutrition is going to have to be. After that, we will look at dietary restrictions and common issues. Now, a lot of people will not know that a certain food affects them a certain way. And I think it's important to identify this, which is another thing or another reason why I am so big on implementing structure. For example, I had a client that I've been working with for about 8 months now. I'm really proud of her. So shout out to her. But when we first started working together, she was bloated a lot and she would say like, oh, I'm just bloated. And she was having she didn't realize she was having trouble digesting rice actually. So it just wasn't working with her. Rice does not work with her. And rice isn't inherently bad. So I'm not gonna go on the internet and say, oh, don't eat rice, because rice works good for plenty of my other clients and actually they love it and it helps them reach their goals, right? But again, something was affecting her that wasn't like a bad, and this is like something that wasn't considered something that would be quote unquote bad, right? So your body digests things differently. And if you're experiencing any issues, I think it's important to look at what you eat, because even though it may not be something bad, you could have trouble digesting it and that could be affecting you. At the end of the day, our goal is to make your nutrition and your meal planning, all that stuff, be like almost a stepping stone or a prop or whatever to help you get to your dream physique. So you want to optimize the whole thing so it can fuel you to go to the gym, build muscle while also stimulating fat loss. But in having trouble with digestion and stuff like that, look at what you're eating. It could be from something, or the culprit could be something that you wouldn't think it would be. And I'm sure you guys are aware of common dietary issues. Like when you have a lot of fiber, of course, you're going to feel a little bit bloated. So if you have like a huge amount of fiber in one meal and you're like really bloated afterwards, you know why. Dairy is inflammatory for like a lot of people, yet they don't avoid it, which is kind of odd, but I love dairy too, so I get it. It could also be super bloated just due to water retention from having a high sodium diet. Cognizant of this and understanding this can help when trying to pinpoint what's going wrong with your nutrition. Again, like I said, you're gonna have periods of trial and error. So just understanding that maybe you don't digest something super well, or maybe your body, this just doesn't work with you, or maybe, it's a common issue that you're unaware of and you're trying to figure out why. It's important to kind of just be cognizant of knowing that that could be a factor. After that, we have, this one's pretty simple, amount of time available to train. So this is also gonna dictate what that caloric maintenance is looking like. Kind of goes hand in hand with your work and your activity levels. I recommend about 3 to 5 days a week, just to give yourself enough time for rest and recovery, while also promoting muscle growth and stimulating fat loss. The more active you are, the more you're going to have to eat to be able to fuel that activity. Beginning our fitness journeys, a lot of us will make that activity level very high, like almost training 7 days a week if you're really having some bad body dysmorphia, and then you guys will eat very, very like keep your nutrition very, very minimal. And that is the quickest way to drive yourself into the ground. And the only reason you do it is because you're experiencing frustration and you're insecure, maybe unhappy with the way that you're looking, that you do that. And that kind of ties back into making decisions based off emotion and out of frustration because you're so in your head and you have body dysmorphia. Again, that's where it's important to have someone, whether it be a coach, a gym partner, a friend, or whatever, to kind of keep you grounded and remind you that fast results, quick results, or something that you do in such an unsustainable way is not something that you're going to be able to keep. So lastly, I want to get into nutrient partitioning and timing. So I know the whole song and dance of, all right, I want to lose weight. I'm going to put myself in a calorie deficit. You go online, you're like, okay, it says my deficit is this, so I'm going to eat this amount of calories. Yeah, this is a good start. Okay, this is a good start. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be a smaller, skinnier, fat version of yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone I talk to is literally like when they say they want to lose weight, they mean they want to build a dream physique. So when you think of building your dream physique, the quickest way to get there is understanding your nutrition and training hard as hell. So a part of understanding your nutrition is not just, I'm going to eat 1,700 calories a day. Don't even look at that number. Be like, okay, I'm going to eat this amount of macros. Look at the macronutrient numbers and then look at what each macronutrient is doing to promote you along your journey to that dream physique. Instead of looking at food as something that you need to control and constrict and restrict, look at it as, how are these carbs helping me achieve my goal? How is this protein helping me achieve my goal? What is this fat doing for me? Those macronutrient levels are all things that you're going to have to play around with to see what works best for you and what promotes the best performance for you. A lot of people will see that number of 1,700 calories and fill it with junk and shit that is not making them perform better in the gym, is not making them healthier, or not having micronutrients to make them feel and think better. It is almost like, what can I fit in this 1,700 calories to still satisfy me, but also keep me in a deficit? And then if they're one step ahead of that and they're looking at their calories as well as their macronutrients, still, again, where are you getting these macronutrients from and what are they doing for you? Macronutrients from protein bars, protein chips, and all these ultra processed foods because you want to still try to hit your protein while also getting to eat the junk that kept you stuck where you're at? Or are you getting it from whole foods that also have micronutrients, which again, those processed foods lack a lot of those micronutrients just due to being ultra processed. Those micronutrients are going to affect the way that you feel, the way that you think, your overall health and wellness, and a lot of things that you probably wouldn't think of. As far as timing and structure goes, once you understand what each macronutrient is doing for you, you can know when to implement them into your daily life and when you should eat what and how it's going to help you get to your dream physique. So we can talk about the 3 macronutrients and how I structure them for all of my clients, for myself as well, and what it does for you and why you're doing it. When you understand why you're eating the things that you're eating and what these macronutrients are actually doing, you'll be much more likely to stick to your nutrition and want to eat these things because it's fueling better performance and also better, like you'll feel better, you'll think better, and you'll also look better. Because if you're not using food as a tool to get you where you want to go and only viewing it as something where you have to restrict yourself, but you're still trying to fit in the stuff the junk that you love to eat, you're leaving gains and progress on the table, or you're kind of slowing yourself down. Because if you optimize your nutrition and your nutrients and even the timing of your meals, you will get there quicker. Key to this whole thing. So when I'm structuring their nutrition, I make sure to keep most of their carbs centered around their workouts, so both pre and post, to give them the energy to push in the gym to ultimately stimulate and promote more muscle growth. I also have protein pre and post workout. Post workout proteins are generally going to be low in fat, simply because fat digests a little bit slower, and you want a quick digesting protein post workout to make sure that you are able to get that in there and start building your muscle. I save most of the fat for the end of the day because fat digests slower, like I just said, and it makes you a bit tired, a little bit sluggish, a little bit lethargic. So that's perfect for right before bedtime. Fat programmed in their pre-workout meal. I just make sure that they have a little bit more time to digest it so they're not feeling full or sluggish or tired or anything like that when they're training. I implement carb cycling for almost all of my clients, actually all of my clients, whether it be just a difference in carb levels for your training and your rest day, or if it's a medium and a high carb day implemented in your week and then your training and your rest days are a little bit lower. Again, it just depends on what your goals are. Sorry, I stuttered. But again, it just depends on what your goals are and where you're trying to go with. But for you guys, when you're writing your nutrition plan, I do recommend having different levels of carbs on your training and your rest days to see better results. So on your rest days, you're not going to be as active, especially if you go back to your work schedule and you have a very sedentary job. Therefore, you're not burning through those glycogen storages and you don't need the excess amount of carbs, because when you're filling your body with more carbs and those storages are full, that is when we start worrying about putting on that excess fat. You have different levels of when you implement those carbs. So let's say on your training days, you're having more carbs, right? And your rest days, you're having very minimal carbs. Just, when you implement those carbs on your training days, because you haven't had them on your rest days, your body is more sensitive to it, simply because on your rest days, you're not having that. So when you understand how to time your meals better and use these nutrients to fuel your performance in the gym, again, use it as a tool to build the muscle and the dream physique that you're looking for. Results much faster than just finding a caloric number and then being like, okay, this is what I'm going to eat. And then like you eat the 1,700 calories, like all in one day or all in one meal or whatever. Like if you aren't structured with your nutrition or even the nutrients that you're getting, you're not going to see as good of results had you had a detailed plan and even timed your meals. It's not better. Pretty much everything I look at and do for myself and my clients when we're structuring our nutrition to get us to our goals. So hopefully you can do it too. If there's any questions that you have or you want a little bit more detail on everything, I try my best to keep it as simple as I could and as quickly as possible. But if you do have any questions, you can message me on Instagram. You can comment on this video. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, I'll leave the link to the application at the bottom of this video. Or if you want to see more content from me daily on stories and reels and posts and all that stuff and interact with me more, I am very active on Instagram and TikTok, so you can go follow me there. I will link it down below. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next one.